5 o'clock in the east, 2 o'clock out west. We start with the video showing absolute devastation in Venezuela after two earthquakes struck near the capital, killing more than 100 people, with that number expected to go up. Homes have been completely crushed, with people digging and trying to find survivors. Our team is on the ground with the latest updates. Back here at home, what could be record-breaking fires in Utah, scorching thousands of acres. We're going to take you live to the Beehive State. And then the stunning twist in a murder case we told you about 24 hours ago on this broadcast. A man charged with killing his wife is now dead himself. The details from inside the courtroom today. Plus, in our breakdown, how a new technology may help us learn what people were talking about just before a city was lost to an ancient disaster. And in our original, the Cinderella story that's become an international phenomenon, how the small nation of Cape Verde could advance to the knockout round of the World Cup. Can't believe it. That's later on the newscast. Good day. I'm Tom Costello. I'm in for Hallie, and we begin with the frantic search underway right now for survivors in Venezuela after those back-to-back earthquakes that hit the country, killing at least 188 people, and that number only expected to rise. So here are some of the images coming into us of the destruction the quakes left behind. Many residential towers have been flattened, piles and piles of rubble on just about every street. Yeah, video captured the exact moment one building collapsed into nothing. And meanwhile, people inside Venezuela's biggest and busiest airport were sent running for cover as the building started caving in. Yeah, an American tourist visiting Venezuela says he was up on a mountain when the quakes hit and says they seemed to come out of nowhere.
Something wasn't right with my phone recording because it started to shake. And then I felt the ground shaking a little bit, and then just mass panic. Like everyone was just bolting the door. It was like a blur.
So the first 7.2 magnitude quake hit in northern Venezuela. That was about 6 o'clock or so yesterday. And then 39 seconds later, a bigger quake struck. And that one, 7.5 magnitude. So now more than 1,000 people have been injured. People on board a plane sent into panic as they watched chaos unfold outside their window. Now, nearly 24 hours later, people are facing the Herculean task of searching through all the toppled buildings looking for survivors. The man who took this video calling out for his son as he walks through what's left of where his son once lived. NBC's George Solis is following this story from Miami, and also Ana Vanessa is also a journalist on the ground in Caracas who has been there when the quakes hit. Let me start with George. George, talk about the efforts to help the people of this country, where things stand right now.
Yeah, Tom, obviously we're here in South Florida, in Doral specifically. It's affectionately known as Dorozuela. It's the home of the Venezuelan diaspora. And let me tell you, might be able to see some of the activity behind me. This community has come out in a big way to help out. Volunteers here at the Global Empowerment Mission, some of these people don't work here. They're not a part of this. They just decided to show up today to say, I need to help any way that I can. So that's some of the activity that you're seeing here. They're mobilizing all of these supplies. The challenge here is, how are they going to get it into Venezuela? As you mentioned there at the top, because of the damage, it's so far widespread and extensive. It's also impacted the international airport there in Caracas. Therefore, the question is, how do you fly this stuff in? Granted, there's going to be a lot of mobilization behind the scenes, a lot of private entities that are going to try and get some of these crucial aid into the country. But how you disperse it when there's still reports of aftershocks, there's still reports of things moving around and people that need help, it's obviously going to be a big, complex situation where you're going to have a lot of moving parts. But again, needless to say, when you see this effort here, this is just day one. You know this is going to continue into the days ahead as this recovery continues, Tom.
Yeah, George, thank you very much. We want to bring in a journalist, Ana Vanessa Herrero, who is on the ground there in Caracas. And Ana, these earthquakes struck as Venezuela was celebrating this national holiday. So a lot of people were at home when these quakes hit. Describe the situation on the ground right now where you are.
Yes, exactly as you said. People were at home; they weren't in their regular activity. So that is why so many of these apartment buildings that collapsed buried so many people. And right now, I am in one of the most affected areas in the capital of Caracas. And I was a little bit closer to where there are ongoing rescue efforts, but they made us move quickly because another aftershock made this huge building move a little bit, and pieces of the structure starting to fall. So that is the situation as we speak. But while this is happening just across the street, just behind me, there are volunteers, firefighters, and first responders desperately looking to for survivors. I talked to some people, some of the families who are right now waiting to hear from their loved ones. And one of them told me that she fears that her mom, she has been looking since early in the morning, didn't survive. Now there's no official information, but everything is so confusing, and still people are trying to help. But while they're doing so, they're also risking their lives, as we just saw.
My goodness gracious. I mean, these two massive quakes back to back. Listen, I understand there are people sleeping out on the streets as all of these buildings have been destroyed. Hospital patients being treated outside because they had to be evacuated. Talk about the strain on the resources there that this disaster has put this country through.
Yes, and that is one of the most complicated things about this situation. Someone I was talking to, she volunteered earlier, and she said, if you see this in another country, then maybe people will take care of this quicker. But here in Venezuela, the system is absolutely collapsed. Now, I am hearing from hospitals that they are overwhelmed with the amount of patients and people seeking medical aid. As you see behind me, there's a lot of movement going on because of the situation I just shared with you. A little bit of shaking, and then one of the buildings started to break. So yes, not only that, but first responders, firefighters, paramedics, they don't have what it takes to face the tragedy that we're seeing.
Okay, Anna, Vanessa Arrero, thank you very much from Caracas. We'll check back. We're also getting a new look at the devastation left behind by a wildfire raging right now across southern Utah. The governor says the Cottonwood fire could be the most destructive and the costliest in state history. It's already burned about 70,000 acres. Firefighting crews have been out for days working to get it contained, but they have not made a big dent yet. And there is significant property loss as well. Thankfully, so far, no deaths. There are active wildfires right now in Arizona, in Colorado, and New Mexico, along with Utah. Right now, red flag warnings are in place for 10 million people across the U.S. Strong winds and low humidity are leading to extremely critical fire risks. We want to bring in Andrew Adams from our Salt Lake affiliate KSL. He's in Beaver, Utah. We have about a 4-second delay. But, Andrew, you got an update from the governor, I understand. How are fire crews trying to get some sort of containment on the Cottonwood fire?
Well, that's a great question, given just the unpredictable conditions. And right now we're getting hit with some of that wind. And wind is always a bad thing when you're talking about wildfires and the ability to blow the flames. But they say right now it's just extremely volatile conditions, and that makes it tough to put a firefighter one-to-one just trying to stop this thing. I'm going to back out just for a minute as we push in, and you can take a look at this plume that's really just taking shape on this hillside behind me here. And this is just a very small section of this fire, which now covers, again, like you said, nearly 71,000 acres. Hard to believe that it started on Monday and it's grown that quickly. We don't have really any kind of assessment yet on how many cabins have burned, but locals believe it's in the dozens, and that includes some primary residences. We heard from volunteers today who told us they believe that there are a dozen individuals and families who have lost primary homes and have essentially lost everything. So that is very sad news to hear at this scene, but certainly it's a very difficult firefight and something that they're trying to tackle in a week where Utah has seen 100,000 acres burn. And really, even on as of June 17th, there were only 13,000 acres burned. So really wild week in Utah.
Boy, that video and the vastness of these fires is just really impressive. Adam, thank you. Andrew Adams, rather, thank you very much. All right, to Europe now, where that deadly heat wave is breaking even more records, with health alerts in some countries now at peak levels. Take a look at some of the stunning scenes in France. First responders are using emergency water baths to help folks avoid sunstroke. Public cooling rooms across Paris are packed because air conditioning is so rare to find there, as emergency room visits are climbing by the day. The extreme heat gripping more than just France. Belgium is breaking records. In Spain, public health experts estimate up to 200 people have died due to the heat. Today, the UK recorded its hottest June day ever, and the severe heat is expected to overtake Germany tomorrow. All of this happening as the EU expects the heaviest travel summer season since 2020. We want to bring in NBC's Danielle Hamanjan, who's in Paris. Danielle, I've got family desperate there to escape the heat. Tourists certainly didn't expect this coming when they booked their trips, right? So what are folks doing to try to get out of this misery?
Well, they're trying to be patient. They're trying to stay hydrated. And that's all you can do. I hope your family does have access to air conditioning. Listen, this was an unprecedented day in France. More than 50 million people under red alerts. This was unprecedented, even in the words of Emmanuel Macron, who we heard from in just the last few hours. These are unprecedented times. Dozens of people have drowned trying to stay cool. Tragically, there was yet another case of a child found dead in a car, believed to have accidentally locked themselves in. It is horrific. Here in the capital, it was another brutal day. Dare I say, marginally better than yesterday. Still, it does feel suffocating. There have been dozens of cases of cardiac arrest in this city. As you say, air conditioning units are quite rare, but this has triggered this massive debate about air conditioning now. To air condition or not, it is on the front pages of papers. TV panels are talking about it. You've got politicians running in the next election who are promising to distribute air conditioning units in all households. On the other side, they're saying it's bad for the environment. In the meantime, people are caught in the middle here, unable to escape this heat. Not only the residents, of course, but tourists. Take a listen.
Our afternoon classes have been cancelled as a result of the increased heat. We've paid a large amount of money to come halfway across the world to continue improving our French.
We are actually going to leave a little early because it's too hot. We're going to leave Paris early.
Now, for viewers watching, if you're familiar with Emily in Paris, for example, you will be familiar with the Paris landscape. It's not just the Eiffel Tower. It is all those gray roofs that make up Paris. While those gray roofs are made out of zinc, and you can't see it now because it's dark. But there is an issue here. All those people living in these iconic attic apartments covered with the zinc roof. The zinc is a conductor of heat. It is trapping the heat. In some cases in those apartments, Tom, it was 120 degrees, really an oven.
That's just oppressively awful. Danielle, thank you very much, and try to cool down in Paris. Thank you. All right, we're now learning that the CIA officer who was arrested with gold bars stashed at his house received even more money from the agency that investigators are now trying to find. That, according to 4 people with knowledge of the investigation. And they tell NBC News that David Rush requested money or other valuables from the CIA that are now MIA. Now, remember, FBI agents found 300 gold bars, $2 million in cash, and dozens of luxury watches when they searched his Virginia home last month. He's been charged with stealing public money and has not yet entered a plea. Our sources say investigators are looking into whether Rush had any government accomplices. 2 sources add that he had a romantic relationship with a woman who later became his supervisor at the CIA. His lawyer, the CIA, and the FBI all denying our request for comment. NBC's Julia Ainsley has been all over this story from the beginning. Okay, walk us through this here about some of these new details. Where could some of this money have gone and the connections related to a previous supervisor at the CIA.
So, Tom, it's actually not unusual, though it sounds kind of wild, that the CIA, that someone in his position of the CIA would request things like gold bars or Rolex watches or something that could be used to pay people around the world who are carrying out missions on behalf of the U.S. when they wouldn't want that money to be traced back to the CIA, and they would want those people to be able to use whatever it is in whatever country they might be living in. What was unusual here is that he requested these valuables, and now they're unaccounted for. They found $40 million worth of gold bars in his home, but we understand there was much more that he requested as part of a program that he was legally able to get, but now the whereabouts are unknown. And in the meantime, investigators have learned that he had a romantic relationship with a woman who later became his supervisor. So we are not insinuating that she was in any way involved with this scheme, but it does raise questions that investigators are certainly looking into about whether or not this behavior was allowed to continue because perhaps people who should have been checking over him weren't doing their job given this relationship.
And if it's all top secret, allegedly he's using this money, the gold bars, the watches, to pay off people overseas. They could easily lose track of that, right?
Yeah, I mean, there should be oversight. Congress is supposed to have oversight of that. The Office of Management and Budget should have some oversight, but it's not the same as the public money coming out of the other agencies that we might cover because this is all done so covertly.
Julie Ainsley, the story just keeps taking new and exciting twists. Thank you very much. President Trump scored some big legal victories today at the Supreme Court on one of his top issues, immigration. The court is allowing the White House now to remove legal protections from hundreds of thousands of immigrants from Haiti and Syria. That paves the way now for the administration to deport Haitians and Syrians who were given temporary protected status. It's also known as TPS. Protesters were outside the high court earlier. Here's the White House border czar, Tom Homan, praising today's 6-3 decision.
It's the right call. You know, I've been doing this since 1984. TPS has never been temporary. The problem is no administration have had the guts to actually follow that statute. President Trump has the guts to follow the law. So temporary means temporary. When the condition of that country gets better, they need to go home.
In another decision handed down today, the divided court ruled that someone looking to enter the U.S. at the southern border cannot claim asylum while still standing on Mexican soil. Because they are not technically in the United States, they must already have crossed the border to claim asylum. NBC News senior legal correspondent Laura Jarrett is here to raise it and parse it all for us. Laura, what do the dissenting justices say about how all this came together and strengthened the Trump administration's ability really to regulate the flow of immigration into our country?
Well, Tom, one of the things you see so starkly in the contrast between the conservative majority and the liberals as it relates to this temporary protected status decision is what impact, if any, do the president's words about Haitian immigrants, and remember way back in the debate talking about eating cats and dogs, none of which was founded? Well, those types of statements are now things that the plaintiffs are pointing to say, hey, this was motivated by animus. This was not all on the up and up. This was not about actually just regulating everyday immigration. You see there the split between the conservatives and the liberals in this case, Tom, but tensions running quite high at the court over these immigration cases today. As you mentioned, another case about asylum. You saw the conservative Justice Samuel Alito coming after Justice Sotomayor after she read her dissent from the bench, something highly unusual, Tom, and underscores sort of how high the stakes are in these cases.
And there appears to be tension right there on the court. Now, when could immigrants likely see deportations? And what does this mean for those from other countries going forward here?
There are a number of other countries that have also had to try their protected status canceled. All of those now subject, just like Haiti and Syria, to have deportation start as soon as the Trump administration can get themselves organized to do so, Tom. Nothing legally holding them back anymore.
But it's hard to argue that things have materially gotten any better in Haiti, for example.
Yeah, and you can see there the statement saying basically Americans aren't safe to go there, yet they don't think that they're so dire that people can't be sent back home.
Laura Jarrett, thank you very much. All right, a dramatic new development in the case of a former youth pastor who was just charged with killing his wife 20 years after she fell to her death. Now a Las Vegas judge says that former youth pastor has died.
We've been contacted by the family concerning the case pending in Utah. Yes.
Yes, and now 15 minutes ago that he's deceased. That is all the information I have.
So David Vandermeer was supposed to appear in court today for the hearing. He had been accused of pushing his wife off a dangerous hiking trail at Zion National Park. The couple was there celebrating their wedding anniversary. The case had gone cold for years, but prosecutors reopened the investigation last year after they got a tip from a former member of Vandermeer's youth group. NBC's Liz Kreutz has been following this story. And Liz, we just talked about this yesterday, about how this all came together. And Vandermeer had been locked up since Monday. Do we have any sense yet of what happened to him? How did he die?
Yeah. Hey, Tom. So what we know is that Las Vegas police put out a statement with information that appears to line up with this potentially being David Vandermeer. In it, it says a 49-year-old male inmate at the Clark County Detention Center was transported to the hospital to be treated for self-sustained injuries. We have asked about a cause of death. They have not reported that yet. But from this, it could be that he potentially took his own life, Tom.
And prosecutors reopened the case because of a recent tip or tips. How did that lead them to press charges?
Yeah, so these recent tips came in with information of some alleged inappropriate behavior by Vandermeer towards some of the people that were in his youth group. That prompted the investigators to begin speaking to some of those people and led them, according to the affidavit, to his ex-wife, who was someone that he was in a relationship when she was underage and while he was married to the wife who then fell and died at Zion National Park. And that woman told investigators that 2 days before Bernadette died, she had tried to break off the relationship with Vandermeer, and had also told investigators that he had previously told her the only way they could be together is if Bernadette, his wife, was not alive. Tom.
And again, now he is dead. Liz Kreutz, thank you very much. If you or someone you know is in crisis, call or text 988 or text HOME to the crisis text line 741-741. The Fed's favorite indicator for inflation was hot again in May, mostly thanks to volatile oil prices that keep pushing costs higher. So the latest PCE, or Personal Consumption Expenditure Report, posted its highest reading in more than 3 years. 4.01%. Sorry, guys, I'm going to read it again. 4.1% over last May's reading. But the stock market today was focused on other matters. Here's where the markets closed up. The Dow up a little, the S&P and the tech-heavy NASDAQ in the red today. A rough day for Apple drove the NASDAQ losses. Nearly all of the company's stock market gains for the year wiped out following an announcement about iPad and MacBook price hikes. Microsoft is also raising prices. Still, soaring costs don't seem to be impacting how Americans are actually spending. Spending ticked up last month after showing zero growth in April. NBC's Hallie joins us now. Hallie, let's start with what this personal inflation reading is really saying. It's really a head scratcher for economists, right? Because prices keep rising, but people keep spending.
Yeah, Tom, and that's really the tension point within this economy. As you said, consumer spending outpacing what we expected heading into this report, also going ahead of inflation itself. And that's really encouraging. We've also saw personal incomes increase, and a lot of that spending was led by services. So things like travel, dining out. Now, when you take a step back, economists talk a lot about this K-shaped economy, right? So those higher income earners, they're spending a lot. They've been boosted by record high stock market gains, rising home equity values. And that's why things like luxury goods sales, for example, as you're seeing on your screen, that's projected to rise this year. The question, of course, is how long all of this can last, because the savings rate, that remains pretty low at just 3%. Tax refund season is pretty much over and slowing down at this point. And many economists expect consumer spending to really slow in the back half of the year, as a lot of those cushions that helped absorb higher prices across all income groups start to go away here. And if the Fed is forced to keep interest rates higher for longer, or perhaps hike interest rates, that's going to be a problem when we talk about affordability.
Yeah. I mean, it's every conversation I have with somebody about the economy, this is the topic. Listen, as for Apple, the price hikes could be one of Tim Cook's last public moves, right, before he steps down as CEO. But I understand it's really about chip prices kind of pushing prices even higher.
Yeah, Tom, this isn't just an Apple story. It's really a supply and demand story across the entire tech landscape here. So last week, Apple CEO Tim Cook, he talked to the Wall Street Journal and said price hikes were pretty much unavoidable as the AI build out is driving this insatiable demand for memory and storage chips. So those chips power everything from phones to laptops, but AI companies are buying so much of these chips, and that's really reducing supply. So there's not enough supply on the market. That's boosting prices across the board. Apple told NBC News that it absorbed those higher costs for as long as it could, but it's now reached a point where it had to raise prices here. And they even left the door open for even more price increases. But you're seeing on your screen, I mean, these are pretty sizable increases for products that were already pretty expensive.
Hallie Cannell, thank you very much. Interesting report. All right, let's go out west right now, where in just a few hours, the U.S. will kick off against Turkey at the World Cup in L.A. So take a look at some of the U.S. fans out there in L.A. just starting to get fired up for tonight's game and sporting the red, white, and blue. It's the USA's final World Cup group match. And there's not a lot of pressure tonight because USA has already clinched their spot in the knockout round. NBC's Lolita Lopez joins us now from L.A. Lolita, what's the energy like out there in Los Angeles ahead of this big kickoff?
Well, if you have fans coming here hours before this match is even set to start and partying the way they do, that is the type of excitement that you are seeing out here already outside of Los Angeles Stadium. And it's really that energy is that really kicking it forward for all of the Team USA fans who are really rallying behind this team that, you know, in a couple of decades, last few decades, let's be real, they haven't been that good in showing this much promise. And now they're in the conversation among the world's elite teams. So fans here are just simply loving it, Tom.
Yeah, who would have thought, right? Listen, as for the game tonight, though, the big question is whether we're going to see the star forward, Christian Pulisic, see the field after his calf injury. I know that he's supposed to be back, but is he ready to go all out, all game tonight?
You know, he said after he trained, so one good thing is we did see him in training, so that's great. He is back on the pitch and moving around. He did say that he's pushing to be able to be a part of the next game, but which one is the next game, we really don't know. And the Team USA's coach really has to, like, play his, you know, different scenarios, right? He also has another Christian Roldan, who is actually from the Pico Rivera area. That's a city here near Los Angeles, and he's also dealing with a little bit of a muscle injury. You have 4 players that have yellow cards. They do not want to get another one because that would keep them out of the next match. So there's a lot of things going on here that the team has to do. But we did talk to a fan, and this is my favorite thing. He's like, even if we get the B team, it's going to be great. So fans, they don't care. They just want to see Team USA play.
And again, they don't have to win tonight to progress, which is good news for them. The pressure's off a little bit. Lolita, thank you very much. Coming up from us, an NFL star is facing kidnapping and robbery charges. What reps for Terrion Arnold are telling our team tonight. Plus, a story straight out of a spy movie. What TSA agents found stuffed inside a jar of peanut butter. We're back. A Detroit Lions star now facing the possibility of life in prison. Terrion Arnold is accused of orchestrating a kidnapping and robbery plot in Florida earlier this year. He surrendered to authorities last night. The Detroit Lions, in a statement, say that, quote, "We are aware of the legal situation regarding Arnold. We will not comment at this time out of respect for the ongoing legal process." NBC's Jesse Kirsch following this for us. Jesse, these are some pretty stunning allegations against Arnold. What more have you learned?
Yeah, and with some pretty serious penalties if he is found guilty, Tom. He faces the possibility of spending life in prison if he is convicted, according to what authorities have shared so far. So to detail what went on here, we have to rewind back to February, okay? At the time, authorities say that Arnold actually was himself the victim of a theft. He and others had more than $250,000 worth of property taken from them that they reported as stolen. And according to authorities, there were 2 teenage men that Arnold believed to be responsible. And those are 2 of the 3 victims in this incident that he is alleged to have been one of, if not the leader of. According to authorities, Arnold was the, quote, primary conspirator. So they're saying he is leading the charge, even if he wasn't physically involved, hands-on at every step. The victims in this alleged attack are said to have been pistol whipped, to have been held at gunpoint, to have their property taken from them. And over the months that have followed since this unfolded in February, you had 6 different people arrested. 2 people pleaded guilty, but Arnold has not been in custody. That changed yesterday, as you mentioned. Do want to read to you part of a statement from the prosecutors in this case, writing in part, quote, "No one has the right to take the law into their own hands. A dispute over missing property does not justify kidnapping, violence, or retaliation." And I mentioned what police have said about believing that Arnold was the, quote, primary conspirator in this. I do also want to share part of a statement that we received from Arnold's spokesperson, the spokesperson saying that Arnold maintains his innocence, adding, quote, "The government appears to be relying on testimony from," end quote, "people, quote, who may have substantial incentives to shift blame." So in other words, the team for Arnold is pushing back clearly on the allegations here. He is, for the time being held without bond. Authorities say he will be staying behind bars at least until Monday, when there's a pre-trial detention hearing, Tom.
Okay, Jesse, we'll watch closely. Thank you. Let's get you over now to the 5 things our team thinks you may want to know about on this Thursday. Number 1, prosecutors in Manhattan say they will not attempt to try Harvey Weinstein for a 4th time on a rape charge that dates back to a 2013 alleged assault. 3 prior trials have ended up with hung juries or a conviction thrown out by a judge. The decision does not make Weinstein a free man. He has already been convicted on separate sex crime charges in New York and Los Angeles. Weinstein maintains his innocence. Number 2, the New York Times reports they now have eyes on a New York Jersey Republican, make that a New Jersey Republican, who's not been seen in months. A reporter knocked on the door of New Jersey Congressman Tom Kean last night, and he answered. Kean has missed months of votes with little explanation beyond references to personal matters. NBC News has not independently verified Kean's reappearance. We reached out to Kean's campaign for comment. No word yet. Number 3, the LA Dodgers have finally followed through on a promise from last June to give back to local communities after immigration raids in Southern California. Local leaders pressed the franchise to donate money after ICE attempted to use the Dodger Stadium parking lot as a staging area. The Dodgers have declined our request for comment. Number 4, more than 1,000 people in the entertainment industry have slammed a major studio for a contract clause that would essentially require child actors to sign away their rights to their voices. Why? So that the studio can use those voices for AI. And it's not clear which studio we're talking about, but the group behind the letter says it rejects all contracts that require kids to give up their voice rights without limits. Number 5, take a look at what somebody tried to sneak through an Indianapolis airport. A smoke grenade hidden inside a jar of peanut butter. The TSA immediately confiscated the grenades from the traveler's checked bag. Okay, now to Italy, where researchers are now reading parts of ancient scrolls written nearly 2,000 years ago. For a long time, scientists thought the scrolls were lost to history after being buried by volcanic ash when Mount Vesuvius erupted. But now AI is helping to unlock those secrets, revealing what ancient Romans were writing about, topics like wisdom and philosophy. NBC's Claudia Lavagna has more in our breakdown.
These ancient scrolls have been called the most inaccessible manuscripts in the world. They were found in the 18th century among the ruins of a villa owned by the father-in-law of Julius Caesar in Herculaneum, an ancient Roman town buried by the Vesuvius eruption in 79 AD that also destroyed nearby Pompeii. Entombed in volcanic ash for hundreds of years, these papyrus scrolls were intact, but most of them were so badly carbonized any attempt to unwrap them could turn them into ash. The ancient text inside locked away for almost 2,000 years. Until now.
This is a complete unwrap of the entire scroll.
On Thursday, American and Italian researchers say they managed to virtually unwrap several scrolls and unveil new texts, titles, and authors unknown to history, ushering a new era for the study of the ancient world. In them, experts found philosophical thoughts like, We will inquire into something, but we will not grasp it if in some way we depart from ourselves and from our own nature. In another one, the author appears to praise practical wisdom.
It's been a long time since the classical period, and we feel a distance from that culture. And then you read the words, and then the distance shrinks immediately. It's like I could be having a conversation with you at a cafe in Paris about that today, you know?
The University of Kentucky developed the virtual unwrapping technique years ago, but the ink in the Herculaneum scrolls was still invisible to the human eye. So in 2023, they launched the $1 million Vesuvius Challenge. They made the scrolls images public and challenged people around the world to find a way to read them. Within months, 3 students, including an American, used AI to read the first letters in ancient Greek from the papyrus and shared the prize. Since then, researchers say they managed to read 10% of the scrolls, and it's only a matter of time until they unwrap them all.
It's a completely new world for us, for our research.
On Thursday, the University of Kentucky announced a new $1 million prize for the first person who manages to read any of the papyrus in full by June of next year.
I can't think of a better way to lose 6 months of your life than doing this.
With hundreds more to analyze, they will not only unwrap the scrolls, but also the secrets within, giving us a glimpse into an ancient past where philosophers questioned the world the same way we do today. This is truly history in the making. Claudio Lavanga, NBC News, Rome.
It'll be a shame if it turns out to be a shopping list. When we come back, thousands of people now without power after this huge fire in Pennsylvania, what investigators are looking into today. Plus, why some members of the so-called Maha movement say they feel betrayed by the Supreme Court. The Make America Healthy Again movement is feeling a bit betrayed right now after the Supreme Court today sided with the maker of Roundup weed killer. It's a ruling that will block thousands of lawsuits alleging the company failed to warn people that that product could cause cancer. A popular food activist and supporter of the Maha movement told our NBC News team over text, quote, "The decision is sickening." Bayer, the maker of Roundup, has already settled thousands of lawsuits over these cancer claims, and it says it will still set aside more than $7 billion to resolve many of the remaining cases against the company. Bayer wrote in a statement that the ruling should, quote, help significantly contain the Roundup litigation after nearly a decade of legal battles. We want to bring in NBC's Julie Sirkin at the White House. Julie, what more have you learned from people in the Maha movement about this ruling on Roundup that has really been in the papers? I mean, for 10 years we've been reading about this.
Oh, Tom, they've been so frustrated by this for months. It dates back to February when President Trump signed an executive order that essentially boosts the supply of glyphosate. He signed that order, and then Congress tried to actually pass a provision in its farm bill. It was defeated after this Maha blowback that would have shielded those pesticide companies, including Bayer, Monsanto, from any liability when it comes to potential cancer-causing links and glyphosate. A little bit more of what Vani Hari had to tell me. She's this mega influencer. She's been a food activist. She actually was a Democrat and helped lead a lot of Republicans to end up voting for President Trump once RFK Jr. joined his administration. She told me in that text that all of it began with the administration's push back in February. The EPA under the Trump administration also making rulings against PFAS. You see her text there on your screen now. And the lawyer for some of those who were trying to sue this and make this push in the Supreme Court, the attorney saying, quote, the Supreme Court ruling wrongly slams the courthouse door on Americans sickened by pesticides. Tom, I spoke to a Maha mom. Her name is Michaela. She works for Moms Across America. She is a nutritionist. I spoke with her a couple of months ago just about this push that they tried to make in front of the Supreme Court. Take a listen to a little bit of what she told me.
The pesticide issue has been severely disappointing. It's been a huge slap in the face. We're seeing a huge coordinated push at every level of government to shield pesticide companies from accountability.
What's so interesting, Tom, is that when RFK Jr., the Secretary of Health and Human Services, when he testified before Congress a couple of months ago, he actually said that he believes glyphosate causes cancer. That's completely contrary to what his own administration has been saying for months. There's been a lot of disagreement between the WHO, the EPA, the scientific community writ large, Tom, about if, in fact, glyphosate is linked to cancer. The Supreme Court, the dissenters in that ruling, including Supreme Court Justice Jackson, actually said there isn't enough evidence to make sure that states aren't at least able to take their own action when it comes to these pesticides. But one thing is for sure, a group that helped usher President Trump into the White House is completely unhappy, and Congresswoman Luna on Capitol Hill said she will make a legislative effort to turn this around. Tom?
Julie Sirkin, that's worth following. Thank you very much. NBC News covers hundreds of stories each day, and because it's tough to read, to watch, to listen to them all, our bureau teams have done it for you and for me. This is what they say is going down in their regions, and we call this the local. Out of our Northeast Bureau, take a look at this massive fire burning at a Pennsylvania factory. The fire burned multiple homes and left more than 3,000 people without power. No word yet on what caused the fire, but police are investigating. From our Western Bureau, hikers may soon visit a so-called forbidden waterfall in California without having to break any laws. Getting there required walking 3 miles along active railroad tracks, so basically trespassing. But now Union Pacific and the county have reached a deal for the company to build a safe and legal boardwalk so that you can see that stunning natural sight. Out of our Southern Bureau, a huge surprise for Dolly Parton fans. The legend herself in person at the grand opening of her new truck stop in Tennessee. There she is, cutting the ribbon. The country music icon has kept a low profile over health issues, even canceling a Las Vegas residency. But she reminded fans on social media, quote, "I ain't dead yet." The truck stop is near Nashville and has a restaurant, a general store, and a dog park. Coming up from us, the Cinderella story taking over this year's World Cup. Why Cape Verdeans say this moment is so much bigger than soccer. We're back with our original in-depth reporting on a topic that we're all watching closely. And every World Cup has a team that captures the imagination of fans around the world. This year, that team may be Cape Verde. That tiny island nation has become the Cinderella story of the tournament, sparking celebrations at home and abroad. NBC's Priscilla Thompson has that story for us.
Half a world away from the islands of Cape Verde. Excitement over the country's Cinderella World Cup run is spilling well beyond its shores.
It feels surreal. It feels like we're still like dreaming.
The tiny island nation, with a population of only about 500,000 people, playing in its first World Cup ever and making waves. Stunning tournament favorite Spain in a scoreless draw. Then coming from behind against two-time World Cup champ Uruguay, forcing another tie. Cape Verde's coach, through an interpreter, speaking about the magical start.
A country may be small, may struggle financially, but if they are resilient, if they can endure struggle, they can also stand shoulder to shoulder with other major teams.
For breakout star goalie Vanzina, Sunday's match came with an extra reason to celebrate. His mother, finally in the stadium after securing a U.S. visa, watching her son defend the net on the World Cup stage.
Here for me, it's something special.
Their supporters often outnumbered in the stands, but never outmatched in spirit.
Doesn't matter if it's 5 of us or 10 of us, the spirit, you see our fans in the stadium, you see our vibe. So that shows Cape Verde. That shows way more than soccer. It shows who we are.
Even inspiring non-soccer fans, including Cape Verdean American Brittany Garley.
And anytime you travel elsewhere, it's like you have to explain who you are, what you are, where you're from. And anytime you would say Cabo Verde or Cape Verde, people would be like, well, what is that?
Garley wrote about why this moment is so much bigger than the sport.
It's a lot of excitement, a lot of pride, a lot of us feeling like we don't really need to explain who we are anymore.
And it's not just Cape Verdeans feeling the fever. As the team's World Cup fairy tale grows, so does its fan base.
I think I'm in love with this country. I think I want to join it.
From Miami to Portugal and the Netherlands.
Where are you guys from?
The Netherlands! A global groundswell. Vanzina becoming a social media sensation, saying his Instagram following is exploding from around 45,000 to more than 16 million. Tickets for Friday's match against Saudi Arabia skyrocketing from about $200 to more than $700.
It's about celebrating culture, not only mine, but others. I think we're all like learning and engaging and connecting and exchanging.
The Blue Sharks, nickname for the predators in the water surrounding Cape Verde, and a nod to strength and courage, touching down in Houston with their sights set on a spot in the knockout round.
We're going to go meet Mr. Messi at Miami, and we're going to retire him. That's the plan, okay?
Okay, feeling confident.
That history now within reach as Cape Verde's remarkable run seems far from finished.
Yeah, I don't know, that Messi comment, those are fighting words there. You know, it's kind of like the Jamaican bobsled team. Everybody's rooting for these guys, Priscilla, and the big game is tomorrow. So what will it take for Cape Verde to advance to the knockout round?
Yeah, Tom, so I'll break it down for folks who may be unfamiliar with the World Cup. All of these teams play in groups. They play against each other, and the top two teams make it to the knockout round. A win gets you 3 points, a tie gets you 1 point, and of course a loss gets you 0 points. So right now, Cape Verde has 2 ties, so 2 points, same as Uruguay. And so if they beat Saudi Arabia, they could make it to the knockout round. But even if they tie, they could potentially still make it depending on how the other games go. So lots to watch. Tom?
No, it's a great story. Priscilla Thompson, great story. Thank you very much. Still to come from us, the new backlash facing the WNBA today. Why who is not on an official league poster has some fans calling foul. The WNBA is in some hot water with fans after unveiling its 30th anniversary poster. Take a look for yourself. Can you spot who's missing? For one, current Indiana star Caitlin Clark, but it's not just her. WNBA legends Diana Taurasi, Sue Bird, and Candace Parker are all left off. Now, we've reached out to the NBA, but we've not yet heard back. And to add insult to injury, literally, Clark left the Fever game last night against Phoenix with an injured back. Her coach calling out some, quote, cheap shots against the star. Today, the WNBA suspended the Mercury's Alyssa Thomas for this play where her fist goes into Clark's throat. NBC's Maggie Vespa joins us now. Boy, this is getting mean and tough. But let's start with the poster. What was the intent and how are fans reacting?
Sure. So, Tom, with the poster, basically the league says their intent is to celebrate 3 decades of history. And as they put it exactly, feature the league's biggest stars who have defined and shaped the game over the years. That's their quote. So to that end, as you point out, a lot of fans are saying, okay, perhaps there's no one more definitive than Caitlin Clark. And where is she on that poster? One fan calling her omission ridiculous. Also listing some of the players that you talked about, also left off. Sue Bird, Cynthia Cooper. Another fan writing about Clark, quote, the league got a golden goose and is doing everything they can to kill her. And obviously not a good day, as you pointed out in the intro for the WNBA. A lot of complications here.
Well, that raises questions. Why would they want to do that? But anyway, we mentioned Indiana's coach blasting what's happening to Caitlin Clark. Why is a suspension being handed down today after a foul wasn't called last night?
Sure. So you played that video of the foul where Alyssa Thomas, it looks like, punches Caitlin Clark in the throat on her way down. And basically the WNBA says they did a post-game review and decided indeed, even though the refs didn't blow the whistle last night, now looking at it post-game, they say it is definitely what they call a flagrant foul 2, which results in a 1-game suspension. So want to play really quick sound from Clark's coach last night, who pointed out that Clark herself got a technical on Monday for something far less egregious in her mind, clapping at players after there was kind of a dust-up and they got in each other's faces. Now this no foul called. Here's what the coach had to say.
You're coming in here aware of what happened 2 nights ago? And that still happens? Absolutely unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable.
Yeah, so once again, want to point out today, the WNBA, who, by the way, is not commenting on that poster, they are now commenting on the Alyssa Thomas, Caitlin Clark dust-up, saying that Alyssa Thomas did indeed commit that flagrant foul. She's now suspended for the next game. Caitlin Clark at this point, Tom, not commenting, but you see that statement there from the league. They say upon that post-game review, the team has assigned a flagrant foul to 1-game suspension. They go on to call that non-basketball act, the act of where her fist landed and how she came down on Clark. So long-winded way of saying, Tom, this is the latest kind of flashpoint in the league's attempt to rein in really rough play. Fans are well familiar with this struggle for the WNBA.
Maggie Vespa, thank you. That's a wrap. NBC News Now continues. Here we go. The news keeps rolling along. 6 o'clock out here in the east, 3 o'clock in the west, and we are starting at this hour with new videos of the devastation out of Venezuela after 2 earthquakes struck near the capital, killing more than 100 people. The number expected to go up. Homes crushed and people looking for survivors. We're going to be going in depth on the search for survivors in Venezuela. Then we're going to go out to the wildfires in Utah. Significant fires burning in that state. Significant amounts of damage already. We'll take you live to the Beehive State. Plus, breaking news on the case of accused killer Luigi Mangione, what our sources are telling us about a possible plea deal. And live tonight in Los Angeles, the U.S. will try to make history by sweeping its group. How the team and the fans are already looking forward to the next round. That's coming up later in the newscast. Good day. I'm Tom Costello. I'm in for Hallie, and we are starting with the frantic search right now for survivors in Venezuela after back-to-back earthquakes hit the country, killing at least 188 people. The number expected only to rise, and the numbers are quite disturbing. Here are some images, very disturbing images coming into us of the destruction that these quakes left behind. Many residential towers have been flattened, piles and piles of rubble on virtually every street. So that's the sound. Video captured the exact moment one building collapsed into nothing. Meanwhile, people inside Venezuela's biggest and busiest airport were sent running for cover as that building started caving in. An American tourist visiting the country says he was up on a mountain when the quakes hit and says they seemed to come out of nowhere.
Something wasn't right with my phone recording because it started to shake. And then I felt the ground shaking a little bit. And then just mass panic. Like everyone was just bolting the door. It was like a blur.
So the first 7.2 magnitude quake hit in northern Venezuela. That was at about 6 o'clock. And then literally 39 seconds later, the second quake came in. That was even stronger, 7.5 magnitude. More than 1,000 people have been injured already. People on board a plane sent into panic as they watched chaos unfolding out the windows that they're looking out of. So now, 24 hours later, people are facing the Herculean task of searching through the toppled buildings for survivors. The man who took this video calling out for his son as he walks through what's left of where his son once lived. NBC's George Solis is following this story for us from Miami. Ana Vanessa Herrero is a journalist based in Caracas who has been there as well, and she was there when the quakes hit. Let's start with George, though. George, people in Miami have been mobilizing pretty quickly to get aid to Venezuela, right?
Yeah, that's absolutely right, Tom. We're here in Doral, Florida, affectionately known as Dorozuela. This is home to such a large expat community of Venezuelans, many of them actually volunteering here today at Global Empowerment Mission. They just showed up saying they felt they had to do something. So what you're seeing behind me is just some of the army of people that are packing up some of these items, these necessities that are going to be so crucial in the days and weeks ahead to get them to Venezuela as quickly as possible. Now, as you mentioned there off the top, this damage damage is so widespread. The international airport there damaged and therefore closed. So getting some of this crucial aid there is going to be challenging. But as we've been talking to Venezuelans here in South Florida, many saying they are compelled to help and nothing will stop them. Here's what one of them told me. What was your first reaction?
I'm trying to help. My first step is help to Venezuelan people because everything is horrible right there.
Yeah, and this mission by the Venezuelan community is not going to stop. We know that there are other events and other organizers here in the Doral area that are putting together their own collections. So all of this, of course, is just so necessary and crucial. And again, they're just trying to make sure that all of this gets to Venezuela as soon as possible, Tom.
And I know you've been talking to family members who have family, of course, in Venezuela, who spent hours waiting to hear from their loved ones.
Yeah, you can imagine just the desperation. We talked to one woman who escaped the epicenter of the earthquake as it was happening, has now made it to Caracas to be with family. And in those crucial hours, not being able to communicate with their loved ones to let them know they were okay. It's been a very emotional couple of hours for so many families. And again, at this hour, some people still not able to get in touch with their loved ones. Here's what one survivor told me.
They're safe. My family is safe, but I know people that they're not so safe. They have I know I have friends that haven't been able to find their relatives. Last night it was horrible. I couldn't find my sister for like 3 or 4 hours.
And again, we expect to hear more of these stories in the hours ahead. Again, especially when you see some of those just amazing images of rescuers pulling people out of the rubble alive. The hope is that more of that continues to happen. As you mentioned here at the top, that death toll and the number of injured continues climbing. We've heard from officials there, the acting president, Delcy Rodriguez, asking for patience, asking for calm. This is going to be obviously a very large crisis, and it's going to be a very, very extensive recovery process, Tom.
Okay, George Solis, thank you very much. We want to go now to journalist Ana Vanessa Herrero, who is on the ground there in Caracas. Ana, these earthquakes struck as Venezuela was celebrating this national holiday. So a lot of people were at home when these quakes hit. Describe the situation on the ground right now where you are.
Yes, exactly as you said. People were at home. They weren't in their regular activities. So that is why so many of these apartment buildings that collapsed buried so many people. And right now I am in one of the most affected areas in the capital of Caracas. And I was a little bit closer to where there are ongoing rescue efforts, but they made us move quickly because another aftershock made this huge building move a little bit, and pieces of the structure starting to fall. So that is the situation as we speak. But while this is happening just across the street, just behind me, there are volunteers, firefighters, and first responders desperately looking to for survivors. I talked to some people, some of the families who are right now waiting to hear from their loved ones. And one of them told me that she fears that her mom, she has been looking since early in the morning, didn't survive. Now, there's no official information, but everything is so confusing, and still people are trying to help. But while they're doing so, they're also risking their lives, as we just saw.
My goodness gracious. I mean, these two massive quakes back to back. Listen, I understand there are people sleeping out on the streets as all of these buildings have been destroyed. Hospital patients being treated outside because they had to be evacuated. Talk about the strain on the resources there that this disaster has put this country through.
Yes, and that is one of the most complicated things about this situation. Someone I was talking to, she volunteered earlier, and she said, if you see this in another country, then maybe people will take care of this quicker. But here in Venezuela, the system is absolutely collapsed. Now, I am hearing from hospitals that they are overwhelmed with the amount of patients and people seeking medical aid. As you see behind me, there's a lot of movement going on because of the situation I just shared with you. A little bit of shaking, and then one of the buildings started to break. So yes, not only that, but first responders, firefighters, paramedics, they don't have what it takes to face the tragedy that we're seeing.
Okay, Anna Vanessa Adero, thank you very much. We're also now getting a new look at the devastation left behind by a wildfire raging across southern Utah. The governor says the cottonwood fire there could be the most destructive and the most expensive in state history. It's already burned about 70,000 acres. Firefighting crews have been out on their lines for days working to get it contained, but they have not made a dent yet. There's a significant property loss already. Thankfully, though, no deaths. And there are active wildfires underway in Arizona, Colorado, New Mexico, and along with Utah, of course. Right now, red flag warnings are in place for 10 million people across the U.S. Strong winds and low humidity are leading to extremely critical fire risks. We want to bring in Andrew Adams from our Salt Lake affiliate KSL. He's in Beaver, Utah. Andrew, and a warning to the audience, we're on a bit of a delay here, but what have we learned about the fire response out there to tackle the cottonwood fire and the others there in Utah?
Well, they are trying to tackle it as best they can, but the weather is making it difficult. Just within the last few minutes, we've been getting hit with some powerful gusts of wind where we're standing. And of course, there's concern about thunderstorms moving in later. The challenge with that is it's really hard to mount a direct fight when you have conditions that are perhaps causing the fire to spot possibly a mile away from where the fire line is. And so really create some hazardous conditions for firefighters. But that said, just immense resources being thrown at these things when you're talking about hundreds of firefighters, dozens of apparatus trying to tackle a fire like this, which really started from zero on Monday and has grown to nearly 71,000 acres. That's really hard to comprehend, but that's what they're dealing with. We did learn about some specialized assets that are being put on this fire. They're arriving today. I actually wrote it down because it's not like the most intuitive name. It's called the Rapid Extrication Module Support Team, basically like an A-team of rescuers, specialized equipment. So when these firefighters go further out or they face extreme conditions, if something goes sideways, they have that medical support that they need. But it's proving to be a very difficult fight with the conditions.
Andrew Adams from one of the best affiliates in the country, KSL. Andrew, thank you very much. Some breaking news coming into us just now out of New York. Lawyers for the man accused of killing United Healthcare CEO had been in talks with federal prosecutors about a possible plea deal. That's ahead of a court hearing Luigi Mangione has scheduled for Monday. That, according to sources familiar with the matter. Sources also say the agreement seemed to be closed earlier this week, but has since fallen apart. Mangione is accused of shooting United Healthcare CEO in December of 2024. He faces federal and state charges in connection with that killing, which he has pleaded not guilty to. His state trial set to start in September. In a statement, Mangione's attorney says information attributed to anonymous sources is part of a, quote, troubling, deliberate pattern by prosecutors and law enforcement to prejudice Luigi and manipulate public opinion. NBC legal analyst Danny Ceballos joining us now. Danny, plea talks are not uncommon before a trial, of course, but it comes after Mangione's team said it would seek a psych evaluation here, right? And maybe even a psych defense for him, which they later then withdrew. So what does that tell you about where we are in this case?
One possibility is that Mangione's team may be trying to rush in a plea deal in federal court before the state court case goes to trial. And the reason for that could be a very unique law that New York has. There is a double jeopardy clause in the federal constitution, but New York has its own double jeopardy clause, which is actually broader. And in theory, if Mangione pleaded guilty to the federal case or went to trial, then the successive New York state prosecution could be barred. I say could be because there are exceptions in the statute. And of course, New York state prosecutors would surely try to oppose this.
Okay, so if any plea deal were to be reached in the federal case, what would that mean then for the state case? Because he also faces charges, by the way, in Pennsylvania, right?
That's right. And nothing could possibly happen to those because they're based on totally different transactions or occurrences. So the Pennsylvania case will survive no matter what. But in theory, if Mangione wanted to plead guilty to the federal case, and look, that would carry with it its own stiff penalty, a stiff prison sentence. But if he did, then what his defense would do next is claim that New York's, not the federal, double jeopardy clause prohibits the New York prosecution because it's based on the same criminal transaction. Very interesting. If the trials were reversed, if the state case went first, then the federal case would not be barred because New York state law can't possibly affect a federal prosecution.
Daniel Ceballos, thank you very much for breaking it down for us. President Trump scored some big legal victories today at the Supreme Court on one of his top issues, immigration. The court is allowing the White House to remove legal protections from hundreds of thousands of immigrants from Haiti and Syria. That paves the way for the administration to deport Haitians and Syrians who were given temporary protected status. That's known as TPS. Protesters were outside the court earlier. Here is the White House border czar Tom Homan praising the 6-3 decision today.
It's the right call. You know, I've been doing this since 1984. TPS has never been temporary. The problem is no administration have had the guts to actually follow that statute. President Trump has the guts to follow the law. So temporary means temporary. When the condition of that country gets better, they need to go home.
In another decision handed down today, the divided court ruled that someone looking to enter the U.S. at the southern border cannot claim asylum while still standing on Mexican soil because they are technically not in the United States. They must already have crossed the border to claim asylum. NBC senior legal correspondent Laura Jarrett joins us now. Laura, what do the dissenting justices say about how all this came together and strengthened the Trump administration's ability really to regulate the flow of immigration into our country?
Well, Tom, one of the things you see so starkly in the contrast between the conservative majority and the liberals as it relates to this temporary protected status decision is what impact, if any, do the president's words about Haitian immigrants, and remember way back in the debate talking about eating cats and dogs, none of which was founded? Well, those types of statements are now things that the plaintiffs are pointing to say, hey, this was motivated by animus. This was not all on the up and up. This was not about actually just regulating everyday immigration. You see there the split between the conservatives and the liberals in this case, Tom, but tensions running quite high at the court over these immigration cases today. As you mentioned, another case about asylum. You saw the conservative Justice Samuel Alito coming after Justice Sotomayor after she read her dissent from the bench, something highly unusual, Tom, and underscores sort of how high the stakes are in these cases.
And there appears to be tension right there on the court. Now, when could immigrants likely see deportations? And what does this mean for those from other countries going forward here?
There are a number of other countries that have also had to try their protected status canceled. All of those now subject, just like Haiti and Syria, to have deportation start as soon as the Trump administration can get themselves organized to do so, Tom. Nothing legally holding them back anymore.
But it's hard to argue that things have materially gotten any better in Haiti, for example.
Yeah, and you can see there the statement saying basically Americans aren't safe to go there, yet they don't think that they're so dire that people can't be sent back home.
Laura Jarrett, thank you very much. A dramatic new development in the case of a former youth pastor who was just charged with killing his wife 20 years after she fell to her death. And now a Las Vegas judge says that former youth pastor is dead.
We've been contacted by the family concerning the case pending in
Yes, and found out 15 minutes ago that he's deceased. That is all the information I have.
So that was a surprise. David Vandermeer was supposed to appear in court today for a hearing. He had been accused of pushing his wife off a dangerous hiking trail at Zion National Park. The couple was there celebrating their wedding anniversary. The case had gone cold for years, but prosecutors reopened the case last year after they got a tip from a former member of Vandermeer's youth group. NBC's Liz Kreutz has been following this story for us. Again, kind of a strange development today. How is the community reacting now that Vandermeer appears to have taken his own life? Is that right?
Yeah, Tom, that's right. And Las Vegas police put out a statement about an inmate that seems to match up with the characteristics of David Vandermeer, saying that he was taken to the hospital with self-inflicted injuries. We haven't been told a cause of death, but it could be. It appears that he took his own life. According to people in the community, there was some inappropriate behavior that has come to light, that ways he acted to underage girls back when he was this youth pastor some 20 years ago. And we are hearing from his former boss at that church who says there's no winners here. This is a tragedy for her family. It's a tragedy for his family. They're good people, and he hurt them too. And we also have heard from Bernadette's parents who said that the mother said she always suspected that it was her daughter's husband. And the father said from, 3 weeks into them dating, he never trusted him and always found him suspicious.
All right, so talk about the tip that prosecutors got then. What was the tip? How did it lead them to Vandermeer that he allegedly killed his wife?
Yeah, well, one of the tips came from that former boss who came forward with some of the new allegations about inappropriate behavior that led them to investigate. And they started realizing that there were actually inconsistencies in what he had told law enforcement at the time happened on that hike with his wife at Zion National Park, and what he told other people actually happened. So they started putting that all together, and all that ultimately led them to make this arrest.
Liz Kreutz, thank you very much. Interesting story. If you or someone you know is in crisis, you can call or text 988 or text HOME to the crisis text line 741-741. The Fed's favorite indicator for inflation was hot again in May, mostly thanks to volatile oil prices that keep pushing costs higher. The latest PCE, or Personal Consumption Expenditure Report, posted its highest reading in more than 3 years, 4.1% over last May's reading. But the stock market today was focused on other matters for the most part. Here's where the indices closed up. The Dow rose. That was all about Caterpillar. The S&P and the NASDAQ down, as you can see there. Tech heavy on the NASDAQ. A rough day for Apple drove the NASDAQ losses. Nearly all of the company's stock, the market gains anyway, were for the year wiped out following this announcement today about iPad and MacBook price hikes. Microsoft, by the way, also raising prices. Still, soaring costs don't seem to be impacting how Americans are spending. Spending ticked up last month after showing zero growth in May. Make that in April. NBC's Hallie is joining us now. For Apple, the price hikes could be one of Tim Cook's last public moves, right? Before he steps down as CEO. And I guess we're kind of all surprised that, much of it is driven by chip prices that are pushing everything to be more expensive.
Yeah, you're right, Tom. This isn't just an Apple-specific story here. This is a supply and demand issue across the entire tech industry. So Tim Cook, he previously told the Wall Street Journal that price hikes were pretty much unavoidable because the AI build-out has created this massive demand for memory and storage chips. So as these tech companies build out these data centers, they're gobbling up the global supply of those chips, and that's raising the prices. The issue, though, is that those same chips, they power our phones, our tablets, our computers. They also power our video game consoles. And that's why earlier today, Microsoft announced that they would be putting a price hike on a few different Xbox consoles, some models, for example, jumping by as much as $150 here. So this is a story that's happening in real time with a lot of these tech companies. But then consumers, we are suffering as well because these chips just impact so many things in our everyday life, and we're having to bear those higher costs.
Yeah, even our cars, we should remember. All right, Hallie, thank you very much. Let's go out west right now because in just a few hours, the U.S. will kick off against Turkey at the World Cup in Los Angeles. So take a look at some of the U.S. fans out there in L.A. just starting to get fired up for tonight's game and sporting the red, white, and blue. It is the USA's final World Cup group match. Not a lot of pressure here because USA has already clinched their spot in the knockout round. NBC's Lolita Lopez joins us now from L.A. Lolita, what's the energy like out there? You and I talked an hour ago, but I'm guessing as we get closer to game kickoff time and everybody is out there starting to get ready and grill their burgers, maybe the excitement's building.
It's totally building, and you see how windy it is out here. We're calling it the winds of victory, right? We were with fans earlier who were just loving it, having a little party. Now they are standing in line, waiting to just get into Los Angeles Stadium for this game. And you're right, maybe there's no pressure. Maybe, they've already won the group. They're going off into the knockout round. But these fans, they're just excited because their team is good. It has been decades since U.S. men's soccer has been this good during the World Cup, showing such dominance and such prominence. They're now in the conversation with elite teams across the world. And for fans, they just want to see any match with their team USA. They're all wearing the red, white, and blue. And, you know, I got the color memo as well, Tom.
Yeah, I like that. But okay, so listen, let's talk about the star forward, Christian Pulisic. Because we're thinking he is going to be on the field, right? He seems to have recovered from his calf injury, but we don't know if he's ready to actually go for the entire game, and they may want to save him for the next game.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot of sort of balls in the air, no pun intended, for the team's coach. They really have to, he's really going to have to figure out what to do. Now, Pulisic did look good in training. He was at training, so that is a good sign. But they might want to save him for the next matchup, which they really need to win that one, right? It's a knockout round. There's also another Christian Roldan, who's dealing with a muscle injury. You also have 4 players that have had yellow cards. You don't want to get another one because then you can't play in the next game. So lots of things going on. But we talked to one fan who kind of put it like this to us, Tom. He said, you know what, even if it's the B team out here, we're here for them, and they're still going to be amazing. So everybody here with the red, white, and blue just chanting away, already hearing Team USA, and just excited to see their team just play at this World Cup.
Yeah, we all are. All right. Thank you very much, Lolita Lopez. Some breaking news right now out of a courtroom in California. The jury deliberating the fate of Jonathan Rendernecht, the man accused of starting the deadly Palisades fire. They say that they're deadlocked. First, the jury said that they had reached a verdict, but then the judge said she received a subsequent note from them saying, quote, we have people on both sides that are dead set, that are unwilling to change their opinion. We are at a standstill. We are unsure how to proceed. Now, remember, prosecutors allege Rendernecht set a fire on a hiking trail in the Palisades on New Year's Day. They say that fire started to burn slowly, undetected for days, but then reignited, and it became one of the most devastating wildfires in the city's history. We want to get right now to NBC legal analyst Misty Maris. This is kind of confusing, right? The court is taking a short recess right now, but the defense is asking the judge to give the jury what's called an Allen charge. Explain what that is, and is it unusual for the jury to say, we have a verdict, and then, oh, never mind, now we're deadlocked?
Definitely unusual to hear we have a verdict, now we're deadlocked. Maybe that first note was a mistake, but right now the jury is deadlocked. And so the defense has asked for an Allen charge. We also call that the dynamite charge, Tom, because it's an instruction that sends the jury back into the deliberation room and tells them, if you're in the minority, listen to the majority, listen to the other jurors, hear what they have to say. Don't put aside your honestly held convictions, but hear the others out to try and avoid a mistrial. Now, the defense is asking for that because in general, the judge is only going to read that dynamite charge once because it could potentially be deemed coercive. And the second best thing to an acquittal is a hung jury. Now, prosecutors, on the other hand, are saying the jurors need more time. They haven't deliberated for that long. They haven't asked any questions. Send them in without the Allen charge. It's premature. So this is what the judge is grappling with right now.
But from the layperson's perspective, this would seem that it's a good sign for the defense if they are hung up already, right?
Yeah, layperson to lawyer, it is a great sign for the defense. The fact that the jury did not come back with a guilty verdict right away. They're grappling with this, and now they know that some jurors are really buying into the defense case. That, for the defense, is a good sign because, again, if you can't get that acquittal from the defense perspective, a hung jury is the next best thing. So we'll see how this one shakes out.
Misty Maris, thank you very much. Coming up from us, how a new technology is helping uncover what people were talking about in an ancient city lost to time. Plus, the allegedly missing person found by a reporter just by knocking on his door. We're back. A Detroit Lions star now facing the possibility of life in prison. Terrion Arnold is accused of orchestrating a kidnapping and robbery plot in Florida earlier this year. He surrendered to authorities last night. The Detroit Lions, in a statement, say that, quote, we are aware of the legal situation regarding Arnold. We will not comment at this time out of respect for the ongoing legal process. NBC's Jesse Kirsch following this for us. Jesse, these are some pretty stunning allegations against Arnold. What more have you learned?
Yeah, and with some pretty serious penalties if he is found guilty, Tom. He faces the possibility of spending life in prison if he is convicted, according to what authorities have shared so far. So to detail what went on here, we have to rewind back to February, okay? At the time, authorities say that Arnold actually was himself the victim of a theft. He and others had more than $250,000 worth of property taken from them that they reported as stolen. And according to authorities, there were 2 teenage men that Arnold believed to be responsible. And those are 2 of the 3 victims in this incident that he is alleged to have been one of, if not the leader of. According to authorities, Arnold was the, quote, primary conspirator. So they are saying he is leading the charge, even if he wasn't physically involved, hands-on at every step. The victims in this alleged attack are said to have been pistol whipped, to have been held at gunpoint, to have their property taken from them. And over the months that have followed since this unfolded in February, you had 6 different people arrested. 2 people pleaded guilty, but Arnold has not been in custody. That changed yesterday, as you mentioned. Do want to read to you part of a statement from the prosecutors in this case, writing in part, quote, "No one has the right to take the law into their own hands. A dispute over missing property does not justify kidnapping, violence, or retaliation." And I mentioned what police have said about believing that Arnold was the, quote, primary conspirator in this. I do also want to share part of a statement that we received from Arnold's spokesperson, the spokesperson saying that Arnold maintains his innocence, adding, quote, "The government appears to be relying on testimony from," end quote, "people, quote, who may have substantial incentives to shift blame." So in other words, the team for Arnold is pushing back clearly on the allegations here. He is, for the time being held without bond. Authorities say he will be staying behind bars at least until Monday. And there's a pre-trial detention hearing, Tom.
Okay, Jesse, we'll watch closely. Thank you. Let's get you over now to the 5 things our team thinks you may want to know about on this Thursday. Number 1, prosecutors in Manhattan say they will not attempt to try Harvey Weinstein for a 4th time on a rape charge that dates back to a 2013 alleged assault. 3 prior trials have ended up with hung juries or a conviction thrown out by a judge. The decision does not make Weinstein a free man. He has already been convicted on separate sex crime charges in New York and Los Angeles. Weinstein maintains his innocence. Number 2, the New York Times reports they now have eyes on a New Jersey Republican, make that a New Jersey Republican, who's not been seen in months. A reporter knocked on the door of New Jersey Congressman Tom Kean last night, and he answered. Kean has missed months of votes with little explanation beyond references to personal matters. NBC News has not independently verified Kean's reappearance. We reached out to Kean's campaign for comment. No word yet. Number 3, the LA Dodgers have finally followed through on a promise from last June to give back to local communities after immigration raids in Southern California. Local leaders pressed the franchise to donate money after ICE attempted to use the Dodgers Stadium parking lot as a staging area. The Dodgers have declined our request for comment. Number 4, more than 1,000 people in the entertainment industry have slammed a major studio for a contract clause that would essentially require child actors to sign away their rights to their voices. Why? So that the studio can use those voices for AI. And it's not clear which studio we're talking about, but the group behind the letter says it rejects all contracts that require kids to give up their voice rights without limits. Number 5, take a look at what somebody tried to sneak through an Indianapolis airport. A smoke grenade hidden inside a jar of peanut butter. The TSA immediately confiscated the grenades from the traveler's checked bag. Okay, now to Italy, where researchers are now reading parts of ancient scrolls written nearly 2,000 years ago. For a long time, scientists thought the scrolls were lost to history after being buried by volcanic ash when Mount Vesuvius erupted. But now AI is helping to unlock those secrets, revealing what ancient Romans were writing about, topics like wisdom and philosophy. NBC's Claudia Lavagna has more in our breakdown.
These ancient scrolls have been called the most inaccessible manuscripts in the world. They were found in the 18th century among the ruins of a villa owned by the father-in-law of Julius Caesar in Herculaneum, an ancient Roman town buried by the Vesuvius eruption in 79 AD that also destroyed nearby Pompeii. Entombed in volcanic ash for hundreds of years, these papyrus scrolls were intact, but most of them were so badly carbonized any attempt to unwrap them could turn them into ash. The ancient text inside locked away for almost 2,000 years. Until now.
This is a complete unwrap of the entire scroll.
On Thursday, American and Italian researchers say they managed to virtually unwrap several scrolls and unveil new texts, titles, and authors unknown to history, ushering a new era for the study of the ancient world. In them, experts found philosophical thoughts like, "We will inquire into something, but we will not grasp it if in some way we depart from ourselves and from our own nature." In another one, the author appears to praise practical wisdom.
It's been a long time since the classical period, and we feel a distance from that culture. And then you read the words, and then the distance shrinks immediately. It's like I could be having a conversation with you at a cafe in Paris about that today, you know?
The University of Kentucky developed the virtual unwrapping technique years ago, but the ink in the Herculaneum scrolls was still invisible to the human eye. So in 2023, they launched the $1 million Vesuvius Challenge. They made the scrolls images public and challenged people around the world to find a way to read them. Within months, 3 students, including an American, used AI to read the first letters in ancient Greek from the papyrus and shared the prize. Since then, researchers say they managed to read 10% of the scrolls, and it's only a matter of time until they unwrap them all.
Is a completely new world for us, for our research.
On Thursday, the University of Kentucky announced a new $1 million prize for the first person who manages to read any of the papyrus in full by June of next year.
I can't think of a better way to lose 6 months of your life than doing this.
With hundreds more to analyze, they will not only unwrap the scrolls, but also the secrets within, giving us a glimpse into an ancient past where philosophers questioned the world the same way we do today. This is truly history in the making. Claudio Lavanga, NBC News, Rome.
It'll be a shame if it turns out to be a shopping list. When we come back, thousands of people now without power after this huge fire in Pennsylvania, what investigators are looking into today. Plus, why some members of the so-called Maha movement say they feel betrayed by the Supreme Court. The Make America Healthy Again movement is feeling a bit betrayed right now after the Supreme Court today sided with the maker of Roundup weed killer. It's a ruling that will block thousands of lawsuits alleging the company failed to warn people that that product could cause cancer. A popular food activist and supporter of the Maha movement told our NBC News team over text, quote, "The decision is sickening." Bayer, the maker of Roundup, has already settled thousands of lawsuits over these cancer claims, and it says it will still set aside more than $7 billion to resolve many of the remaining cases against the company. Bayer wrote in a statement that the ruling should, quote, help significantly contain the Roundup litigation after nearly a decade of legal battles. We want to bring in NBC's Julie Sirkin at the White House. Julie, what more have you learned from people in the Maha movement about this ruling on Roundup that has really been in the papers? I mean, for 10 years we've been reading about this.
Oh, Tom, they've been so frustrated by this for months. It dates back to February when President Trump signed an executive order that essentially boosts the supply of glyphosate. He signed that order, and then Congress tried to actually pass a provision in its farm bill. It was defeated after this Maha blowback that would have shielded those pesticide companies, including Bayer and Monsanto, from any liability when it comes to potential cancer-causing links and glyphosate. A little bit more of what Vani Hari had to tell me. She is this mega influencer. She's been a food activist. She actually was a Democrat and helped lead a lot of Republicans to end up voting for President Trump once RFK Jr. joined his administration. She told me in that text that all of it began with the administration's push back in February. The EPA under the Trump administration also making rulings against PFAS. You see her text there on your screen now. And the lawyer for some of those who were trying to sue this and make this push in the Supreme Court, the attorney saying, quote, the Supreme Court ruling wrongly slams the courthouse door on Americans sickened by pesticides. Tom, I spoke to a Maha mom. Her name is Michaela. She works for Moms Across America. She is a nutritionist. I spoke with her a couple of months ago just about this push that they tried to make in front of the Supreme Court. Take a listen to a little bit of what she told me.
The pesticide issue has been severely disappointing. It's been a huge slap in the face. We're seeing a huge coordinated push at every level of government to shield pesticide companies from accountability.
What's so interesting, Tom, is that when RFK Jr., the Secretary of Health and Human Services, when he testified before Congress a couple of months ago, he actually said that he believes glyphosate causes cancer. That's completely contrary to what his own administration has been saying for months. There's been a lot of disagreement between the WHO, the EPA, the scientific community writ large, Tom, about if, in fact, glyphosate is linked to cancer. The Supreme Court, the dissenters in that ruling, including Supreme Court Justice Jackson, actually said there isn't enough evidence to make sure that states aren't at least able to take their own action when it comes to these pesticides. But one thing is for sure, a group that helped usher President Trump into the White House is completely unhappy, and Congresswoman Luna on Capitol Hill said she will make a legislative effort to turn this around. Tom?
Julie Sirkin, that's worth following. Thank you very much. NBC News covers hundreds of stories each day, and because it's tough to read, to watch, to listen to them all, our bureau teams have done it for you and for me. This is what they say is going down in their regions, and we call this the local. Out of our Northeast Bureau, take a look at this massive fire burning at a Pennsylvania factory. The fire burned multiple homes and left more than 3,000 people without power. No word yet on what caused the fire, but police are investigating. From our Western Bureau, hikers may soon visit a so-called forbidden waterfall in California without having to break any laws. Getting there required walking 3 miles along active railroad tracks, so basically trespassing. But now Union Pacific and the county have reached a deal for the company to build a safe and legal boardwalk so that you can see that stunning natural sight. Out of our Southern Bureau, a huge surprise for Dolly Parton fans. The legend herself in person at the grand opening of her new truck stop in Tennessee. There she is, cutting the ribbon. The country music icon has kept a low profile over health issues, even canceling a Las Vegas residency. But she reminded fans on social media, quote, "I ain't dead yet." The truck stop is near Nashville and has a restaurant, a general store, and a dog park. Coming up from us, the Cinderella story taking over this year's World Cup. Why Cape Verdeans say this moment is so much bigger than soccer. We're back with our original in-depth reporting on a topic that we're all watching closely, and every World Cup has a team that captures the imagination of fans around the world. This year, that team may be Cape Verde. That tiny island nation has become the Cinderella story of the tournament, sparking celebrations at home and abroad. NBC's Priscilla Thompson has that story for us.
Half a world away from the islands of Cape Verde. Excitement over the country's Cinderella World Cup run is spilling well beyond its shores.
It feels surreal. It feels like we're still like dreaming.
The tiny island nation, with a population of only about 500,000 people, playing in its first World Cup ever and making waves. Stunning tournament favorite Spain in a scoreless draw. Then coming from behind against two-time World Cup champ Uruguay, forcing another tie. Cape Verde's coach, through an interpreter, speaking about the magical start.
A country may be small, may struggle financially, but if they are resilient, if they can endure struggle, they can also stand shoulder to shoulder with other major teams.
For breakout star goalie Vanzina, Sunday's match came with an extra reason to celebrate. His mother, finally in the stadium after securing a U.S. visa, watching her son defend the net on the World Cup stage.
Here for me, it's something special.
Their supporters often outnumbered in the stands, but never outmatched in spirit.
Doesn't matter if it's 5 of us or 10 of us, the spirit, you see our fans in the stadium, you see our vibe. So that shows Cape Verde. That shows way more than soccer. It shows who we are.
Even inspiring non-soccer fans, including Cape Verdean American Brittany Garley.
And anytime you travel elsewhere, it's like you have to explain who you are, what you are, where you're from. And anytime you would say Cabo Verde or Cape Verde, people would be like, well, what is that?
Garley wrote about why this moment is so much bigger than the sport.
It's a lot of excitement, a lot of pride, a lot of us feeling like we don't really need to explain who we are anymore.
And it's not just Cape Verdeans feeling the fever. As the team's World Cup fairy tale grows, so does its fan base.
I think I'm in love with this country. I think I want to join it.
From Miami to Portugal and the Netherlands.
Where you guys from?
A global groundswell. Von Zina becoming a social media sensation, saying his Instagram following is exploding from around 45,000 to more than 16 million. Tickets for Friday's match against Saudi Arabia skyrocketing from about $200 to more than $700.
It's about celebrating culture, not only mine, but others. I think we're all like learning and engaging and connecting and exchanging.
The Blue Sharks, nickname for the predators in the water surrounding Cape Verde, and a nod to strength and courage, touching down in Houston with their sights set on a spot in the knockout round.
We're going to go meet Mr. Messi at Miami, and we're going to retire him. That's the plan, okay?
Okay, feeling confident.
That history now within reach as Cape Verde's remarkable run seems far from finished.
Cabo Verde! Woo, Dubai!
Yeah, I don't know, that Messi comment, those are fighting words there. You know, it's kind of like the Jamaican bobsled team. Everybody's rooting for these guys, Priscilla, and the big game is tomorrow. So what will it take for Cape Verde to advance to the knockout round?
Yeah, Tom, so I'll break it down for folks who may be unfamiliar with the World Cup. All of these teams play in groups. They play against each other, and the top 2 teams make it to the knockout round. A win gets you 3 points, a tie gets you 1 point, and, of course, a loss gets you 0 points. So right now, Cape Verde has 2 ties, so 2 points, same as Uruguay. And so if they beat Saudi Arabia, they could make it to the knockout round. But even if they tie, they could potentially still make it depending on how the other games go. So lots to watch. Tom?
No, it's a great story. Priscilla Thompson, great story. Thank you very much. Still to come from us, the new backlash facing the WNBA today. Why who is not on an official league poster has some fans calling foul. The WNBA is in some hot water with fans after unveiling its 30th anniversary poster. Take a look for yourself. Can you spot who's missing? For one, current Indiana star Caitlin Clark, but it's not just her. WNBA legends Diana Taurasi, Sue Bird, and Candace Parker are all left off. Now, we've reached out to the NBA, but we've not yet heard back. And to add insult to injury, literally, Clark left the Fever game last night against Phoenix with an injured back. Her coach calling out some, quote, cheap shots against the star. Today, the WNBA suspended the Mercury's Alyssa Thomas for this play where her fist goes into Clark's throat. NBC's Maggie Vespa joins us now. Boy, this is getting mean and tough. But let's start with the poster. What was the intent and how are fans reacting?
Sure. So, Tom, with the poster, basically the league says their intent is to celebrate 3 decades of history. And as they put it exactly, feature the league's biggest stars who have defined and shaped the game over the years. That's their quote. So to that end, as you point out, a lot of fans are saying, okay, perhaps there's no one more definitive than Caitlin Clark. And where is she on that poster? One fan calling her omission ridiculous, also listing some of the players that you talked about, also left off, Sue Bird, Cynthia Cooper. Another fan writing about Clark, quote, the league got a golden goose and is doing everything they can to kill her. And obviously not a good day, as you pointed out in the intro for the WNBA, a lot of complications here.
Well, that raises questions. Why would they want to do that? But anyway, we mentioned Indiana's coach blasting what's happening to Caitlin Clark. Why is a suspension being handed down today after a foul wasn't called last night?
Sure. So you played that video of the foul where Alyssa Thomas, it looks like, punches Caitlin Clark in the throat on her way down. And basically the WNBA says they did a post-game review and decided, indeed, even though the refs didn't blow the whistle last night, now looking at it post-game, they say it is definitely what they call a flagrant foul 2, which results in a 1-game suspension. So want to play really quick sound from Clark's coach last night, who pointed out that Clark herself got a technical on Monday for something far less egregious in her mind, clapping at players after there was kind of a dust-up and they got in each other's faces. Now there's no foul called. Here's what the coach had to say.
You're coming in here aware of what happened 2 nights ago? And that still happens? Absolutely unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable.
Yeah, so once again, want to point out today, the WNBA, who, by the way, is not commenting on that poster, they're now commenting on the Alyssa Thomas, Caitlin Clark dust-up, saying that Alyssa Thomas did indeed commit that flagrant foul. She's now suspended for the next game. Caitlin Clark at this point, Tom, not commenting, but you see that statement there from the league. They say upon that post-game review, the team has assigned a flagrant foul 2, 1-game suspension. They go on to call that non-basketball act, the act of where her fists landed and how she came down on Clark. So long-winded way of saying, Tom, this is the latest kind of flashpoint in the league's attempt to rein in really rough play. Fans are well familiar with this struggle for the WNBA.
Maggie Vespa, thank you. That's a wrap. NBC News Now continues.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.